of which I may be the last member, by tradition, came into existence after the last great cataclysm or catastrophe which affected the world.
In this series of videos, I'd like to discuss the concept of past civilizations we were never told about in history class or anywhere else in school for that matter. As people are waking up from the matrix, more and more people are pointing out some of the hidden evidence of a pre-existing civilization that was far more advanced than what we have now. Now, having said that, there are people out there who are very good at fact-finding, very good at research. I'm not one of them. However, I'd like to look at this from a different angle. Since coming to Japan, I had practiced something what is called Kanno-renshu, which really means just to improve your empathic or intuitive skills. This is used in martial arts a lot. More on that later. There are many things that we could look at that hint to that much of what we are taught is either a flat-out lie or based on some truth. So in part one, I'm going to look at the concept of pop culture and how it influences our thinking to believe history was something it was not. And since I'm in Japan, the best subject to cover would likely be the ninja, because
once you go ninja, you never go anywhere, really, because it's hard to move when you're dead.
I am ninja, we are ninja, but I believe that you are ninja too.
Now I could go into a lot about the ninja, what they did and what they didn't do, versus what pop culture said that they did. But that deserves a video on its own. I'm only going to point out some of the misconceptions here. The point being that whether intentional or not, pop culture from the media tends to warp our view, what we believe to be true. Generally, ninjas were not assassins. The assassins are called koroshiya. People who probably knew some ninja skills, but also could assassinate. Now, there are some famous ninjas who did assassinate certain people, but by and large, ninjas were not assassins. Nor were they what you would call a mercenary. That's yojimbo. Here's an example of Mifune Toshiro playing the title role of Yojimbo. Ninjas are by and large spies. Now, some would do, of course, arson or sabotage or other techniques to confuse enemies, but they were not what you see in movies. They did not wear kabuki outfits. They wore disguises as common people for the most part. It has been noted that if you wear a black outfit like you see the ninja always wearing, you would have been immediately spotted and cut down, especially in a full moon, because that kind of black actually reflects the full moon. Other colors would have more likely been used had they worn something like that, like yomogi no iro or ai no iro, which is a dark green and a dark purple, which was a common color at the time. And what is most important, that each ninja clan probably specialized in a specific role. So some may have been what I had previously said, a koroshiya, but most were just gathering information from rival clans, or do the dirty work the samurai were not allowed to do. Now, in the Taisho era, the ninja was portrayed in a lot of novels as wearing the kabuki outfit that you commonly see now, carrying a sword on their back, holding a bunch of shuriken, throwing stars, and this weapon, the kusarigama. In recorded history, it has never been known for anyone to use this weapon in combat anywhere. This weapon was actually made by a lower class samurai to use as a performance. If a ninja was going to use a shuriken, they would have used the hari shuriken, or the needle shuriken, which is much easier to conceal and can be used as a tool for other needs. Fighting from a sword, from your back, is the most illogical thing you could do in the samurai world. Before you could get the sword out of the sheath, a samurai would cut you down. That doesn't mean they didn't carry a sword on their back, they probably did. But to see them drawing their sword from their back and attacking a samurai, for example, is false. The draw of a samurai sword is very fast and very precise. They wouldn't stand a chance. Because ninjas were mostly spies, they wanted to conceal their identity at all cost. Calling themselves ninja in the first place would have been absurd. That word actually came from the 1980s. The real word for the ninja is shinobi mono or shinobi no mono. The word ninja is the same word as shinobi mono, but it's just the different Chinese reading. But all that aside, what is really interesting is what the ninja really did. Now again, each clan probably specialized in one thing or another, but some ninjas were known for being able to jump over a wall, a 6-foot wall, with one hand, swim by being in a vertical position, and so on. Fact is often more interesting than fiction. This also goes for the samurai. The samurai sword was a good weapon, but to compare it to a rapier, for example, or other European swords is ludicrous. Any sword specialist will tell you that a specific sword was designed for a specific reason. Yes, the samurai is a good cutting weapon, but up against European armor, for example, it's next to useless. Chainmail would wreak havoc on such a weapon. It is known that a samurai sword could only cut down about 3 or 4 people before the blade couldn't be used anymore. That's why a good swordsman was often surrounded by many others, and they would sacrifice 3 or 4 people before they cut the samurais down, because the samurai sword couldn't cut anymore. Now, there are other swords that had the same kind of edge the samurai sword did, but those weapons didn't reach the fame of the samurai sword because of the lack of promoting one's culture, which Japan is actually very good at doing. Again, I could go on, but the misconceptions that we see in pop culture begin to make me think that this was actually intentional to deceive people on what really happened. There are some weapons that I've seen that I have no idea, no one knows how they made them. Lost technology. One such weapon you see here is called the techo. And the techo was a common weapon that a ninja might use, a commoner might use, a samurai might even have on him. But most of the ones that you see today have a screw that swivel this kind of pen-like shaped weapon. But there are some that are made that are not with a screw, but the metal that actually goes into pen-like structure you see here. And no one knows how they made it. Again, lost technology. Now, having said that, that piqued my interest on some of the other structures that I saw through Japan, particularly castles. So I went on a trip to investigate. Was there a previous civilization we were never told about? It seems likely. More on that in part 2. So in conclusion, I hope this points out how pop culture can influence our perception on history. And if that wasn't bad enough, our education system at this time seems to be promoting things that aren't true, or not true, or, again, partially true. So it's always a good idea to question everything that you're told. At the end of the video, there is some photographs I took on my last trip. If you're interested, please have a look. And thank you for watching.